Look, this next story kind of has me shaking my head. I don't want to say again, maybe I should just say still shaking my head after earlier decisions made by the city about that eventual REM station in Kirkland. But look, I'm not going to get into this
That sounds pretty calm. It fills me
Jim
with
Beis will.
rage.
Okay.
Right, yeah.
Jim Beis is the mayor of Pierrefonds-Roxboro. We've spoken about this before. Jim is on the line right now because, again, this decision, again, to me does not make sense. And Jim, I know it doesn't make sense to you either. So let's begin by explaining exactly what the city is saying here with respect to access to the REM station.
Aaron, Natasha, thank you for having me once again. Look, this is something you shake your head. I've been shaking my head for years, and the community has been shaking its head for almost 40 years. Because if we go back to whatever data I was able to find, this dates back all the way to probably 1986, where the urban boulevard at that time that they talked about, for us, we look at it as another north-south artery that would not only have bus access and bikeway systems, protected bike paths, pedestrian paths, but would also accommodate vehicles. And you know why? Because we have 30,000 residents that live west of St. Charles that need to have a quicker access, not only to get to the 40, which at that time, that was the purpose, but now with the REM, what we've said is you need to make it, available enough for them, for people to use public transit. Look, Montreal will label us as anti-bike, anti-transport. That is the furthest from the truth, and they're talking to the wrong person, because what we've done in Pierrefonds is we've added double the bikeway systems in Pierrefonds-Roxboro since we've been there, and incorporated, reserved bus lanes. So we want ultimately people to use, other means of transportation. Environmentally speaking, it's the absolute way to go. But to unilaterally, as they did in 2008 when they got elected, remove something, not only that the elected bodies of the past, but 40 years of residents crying out loud for this boulevard, is mind-boggling. And how can they remove something like that just from a stroke of a pen to impose their ideology and their philosophy on how they think the rest of the city of Montreal should be? It's incredible.
Okay,
incredible.
I want to go back a little because you're talking about 40 years ago. More recently, a couple of years ago, Jim, when the idea of the REM was starting to happen, and it looked like this was going to be great news for people who lived out there. You'd be able to park your car, hop on the REM, not have to take your car into town, and then all of a sudden we learn that original idea of allowing cars to park there, yeah, they've had to change that as well. Are we down to 0 cars that would now be allowed to be parked there?
That's a great question. And, in the past, when that was designed initially, we were looking at having I have 900 in Pierrefonds-Roxboro, for example, in the 2 stations that I have in my territory. In Kirkland, they were looking initially at having approximately 3,000 spots, which made sense. I mean, 83% of the population on the West Island relies on their vehicle for whatever reason, according to Statistics Canada in the last poll that they did. So 3,000 was reduced to 2,000. And then from 2,000, it was reduced to who knows how many, probably several hundred. And I can tell you that the 900 that I have in my 2 stations in Pierrefonds-Roxboro, by 7:15, they're full. So, yes, they work if people have access to them. And you know what happens when people get there and they don't have access to a parking spot or even a road to get them to the train station to drop somebody off? What they do more often than not is they'll take their car. And so what's happened is this administration fails to understand that they need to listen to the people. They did it for Camille Hood. I have lists of decisions they've made unilaterally. And look, I admit, when we're elected by the people to make decisions in the best interest of our communities. But this is something they have never consulted me or my community, and every single time that we've come up with some type of argument to assess the situation and give them recommendations on what would respond best for our community, according to what the people are telling us, they completely disregard that and completely do whatever they want.
So the mayor was commenting on this today because the question came up, because to many of us this doesn't make a whole lot of sense. See if you can find an explanation in here, Brian.
That road, actually, which is kind of part of the Parc de l'Ouest, is a decision that was made by the government of Quebec and the city of Montreal, and to serve the purpose of the Grand Parc. And I also want to remind everybody that this area is a place where there's been flooding in the past as well. So we're trying to protect it by protecting the green spaces remaining, and that road will be something to access essentially the park. And there will be buses, because that's important. We want for the last kilometer from the REM, for example, that people can access it.
access it by bus or by bike, and not
I mean,
by car, because that, of course, is good for everybody. Jim, I don't know what to say.
I get two things out of that statement. Number one, she says that the City of Montreal with the Quebec government, respectfully to the Quebec government, who are they to speak on behalf of my community when we know what's best for our community from years of polling our community and our people that live in that area, number one. The second part that she says about flooding, you know what? We have drone video of that whole area from 2017 onwards, and all those videos show clearly that all those areas were dry as the whistle. And you know why she doesn't know that, or she speaks out of line when she says that, is because she was never in our territory during the floods. And the one time that she came, she drove around in the truck with me so I can show her all the interventions. So by saying that, they're deflecting by somehow trying to say, well, you know, that area was flooded, so, you know, we have to do something else with it. Well, if you want to conserve land, that's great. Anytime we save green space and land is a good day. But don't put the two together. We have an isolated community in the west that if Alain-Saint-Laurent floods, a part of Gouin floods, a lot of the folks that are in that area will be secluded and isolated away from any type of service that they can receive in the meantime until we get them help. And so, look, we've asked many times folks to sit down with them. Vaguely, they somehow agreed to meeting us. Yet any time we've met with them, or my services have met with them, every single time that we've proposed something, we've been met with deaf ears. And the other thing we've also said is make it accessible to vehicles. And if you don't want to have vehicles all the time, well, then the vehicles at least can be accessible or accessed rush hours, at least during the rush hours, to get people to public transit and to the REM and have them use that accordingly. But, you know, this is what happens when you have an administration that doesn't listen anymore. And it's been frustrating for me through the years, and it continues to be now, as you can see and you can hear in my voice.
I mean, you're making way too much sense, Jim. I think that's the
problem,
first problem. I'm thinking about this idea of, you know, if you build it, they will come. But if you build it and make it incredibly difficult and inaccessible for people, well, then no, they're not going to come. So what's next, Jim? Is this a done deal?
Well, folks, let me just say that I am the last one to ever say that we should use our vehicle more than any other means of transportation. That is not the way to go, and that is not what I'm saying here. And I've never said that. We're not building roads to add vehicles to the road. We're building roads to be able to, assume a role of responsibility and give folks the option. That's what we're doing. And so what's next? Look, what's next is they passed the loan bylaw. And you know what the amount is so far? The amount of loan bylaws for this link that they keep talking about has surpassed $60 million, folks. Put that in numbers. The city is broke, and here we are trying to invest $60 million for something that the people don't want. It makes absolutely no sense to me.
Jim, we are out of time, but I don't think we need any more time to pretty much understand what it is you were saying and what the community out there and residents out there really want to have versus what the city is telling them they need to have. So we'll see where this goes. Jim, as always, we appreciate your time. Thanks so much.
Thanks, folks. Be well.
You
Jim
too.
Beis, the mayor of Pierrefonds-Roxboro. What can you
say?
say?
My head would be exploding.
Yeah, what can you say?
He's saying exactly what needs to be said.
This is what the community needs, and then the city says, and the city with the Quebec government decides, well, we know what you need better than you do.
But this
How
is
much
what
sense does this
is happening.
make?
As he said, he's got a list over and over and over again.
Ideologies. Anyway.